Hey everyone, it's the one and only magnificent bird, Beak, speaking to you today. And in today's video, I'm gonna be going over the Lilo and Stitch live action remake spoiler review. If you saw my earlier video, I gave a spoiler-free review to kind of talk about without getting into specifics about there were some of the changes of the live-action remake that I didn't mind, and there's really only one change from the remake that I don't get why they did what they did. It's like really the only negative it's the major negative I have about this movie. And honestly, no. If y'all want to know, the live action remake is not better than the original. Nah. I mean, it's better than like 90% of the other live action remakes. I don't know if that's saying a whole lot. Because, like, what remake doesn't have their own set of issues? Snowflake, that's bottom of the barrel, and so is the Little Mermaid. Lilo and Stitch ain't nowhere near as bad as those two. Not even close. Mm-mm. So before we get started, I hope all of you are doing good and staying safe out there. And if you like the video, leave a like, leave a comment down below. Did you see this movie? And if you did, what did you think about it? And if you aren't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you know the second I upload to YouTube. And if you want to share this video, that would be great too. If you do any of those things, that would be very much appreciated. Now, this spoiler review is gonna mostly be positive, but I don't know, maybe if you watch another review, it might be more negative, I'm sure, but yeah, so if you don't want to know anything about this movie, I would go ahead and click off the video, and if you want to watch the movie and then come back, that would be great. But if you did watch the movie or you just don't care about spoilers, then go ahead and stick around. And I will say before I get into the things that I didn't mind, the one big thing that I didn't like about this movie, and try to think about what stayed the same from the original. So, the only reason I went to go see this movie is because my little niece wanted me to go with her, okay? And then my little nephew also came with, so it was my sister and my niece and nephew, and my niece and nephew, they absolutely loved the movie. But you gotta keep in mind, one of them is 4 and the other is 3 years old. So they absolutely loved the movie. And I know my little niece had seen parts of the original. I don't know if she actually sat down and watched the whole thing, but she loved both of them. So there you go. That's what they thought about it. They absolutely loved it. Now, should I go into the negative or jump into kind of the positive? I want to jump into the positives. I think I'll go ahead and do that. So, okay, so let's go over the changes that I didn't mind, okay? So, Jumba and Peakley have camouflage devices. Okay, so they had to get around Jumba and Peakley not being in their alien forms for the whole movie. And how they did that is the Grand Council woman from the leader uh of the galaxy faction, hold on, Federation, that's what I was trying to think of. The grand woman, the Grand Council woman from the leader of the, from up in space, right, from the Federation, she gives Jumba and Peakley these camouflage devices when they get on Earth. All they have to do is look at two humans, which one of them just so happens to be Alan from the Hangover movies. All they have to do is look at them and scan them, and now they'll be able to camouflage as them. So that's how they get around that. I didn't mind that, because reportedly this movie's budget was $100 million. Maybe, just maybe, they should have spent a little more, but they didn't go like 2, 3, $400 million on Lilo and Stitch. But anyway, so the way that Jumba and Peakley get around on Earth, I don't mind it. They have camouflage devices, so they have to have like a scan of two different humans, and they walk around. One of them walks around as Zach Galifianakis, Alan from the Hangover movies, and then that other guy, I know I've seen him from the last James Bond movie. I can't think of his name, but so Jumba is voiced by Alan from the Hangover movies, which I thought was kind of funny, but and then Peakley is voiced by that other guy. Now, as Jumba and Peakley have to follow around and try to find Stitch. They are the actors instead of in their alien form. Now, this is a change I actually maybe kind of prefer a little bit. So, Cobra Bubbles, remember him? Bubbles? He's in the original, he's a social worker. However, he's in the movie, but no, he's not a social worker whatsoever. Cobra Bubbles is a CIA agent. So that is a big change right there. I didn't mind that change. I was like, cool, whatever, fine. So, because when Stitch's ship, crashes in on Earth, right? That's when the CIA get called to investigate. And so there's a scene in the movie where, okay, so this is after the social worker had come to see Nani's living conditions. And so the social worker comes back, but however, this time the social worker brings with her, rather, the director of the social services, and it happens to be Bubbles, but he's not really the director of social services or whatever. He's just disguised as that so he can get a hair sample from Stitch. So he ends up sending the hair sample off to see what it is that landed in that tree. So I didn't have a problem with that. This is going to be an issue that I think a lot of people are going to have with this movie. And this is what I was kind of saying. Maybe they should have spent a little bit more money. Gone 2 isn't in the movie. So, for those that, I'm sure most of you are aware, Gaunt 2 is that big shark-looking alien thing that pursues and chases after Stitch in the animated movies. And for whatever reason, I don't know, here's the problem with that. I didn't mind him not being in the movie, whatever, but I can see people's complaints with this, okay? So, if Jumba and Peakley can have camouflaging devices, right? I don't see why Gontu couldn't have either. I mean, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't. But believe me, I don't think it's the worst offense of this movie. I'm fine with it because so instead of Gontu being the protagonist or the villain, I should say, Jumba ends up being the villain of this live action remake. Yes, this is a legit thing that happens. So once the CIA get wind of Stitch crash landing on Earth, the Grand Council woman, the leader of the Federation of the Galactic Federation, once she gets wind of the CIA's involvement, she pulls back Jumba and Peakley, but however, Jumba doesn't want to go back. He doesn't want to go back. Peakley is more willing to go back, but Jumba's like, nah, I created this little monster and I'm gonna catch him if it's the last thing I do. So he ends up trapping Peakley where he can't stop him. And so now Jumba is on the hunt for Stitch by himself, which I don't mind it. I think it is kind of interesting that Jumba is now all of a sudden the big bad villain of this movie instead of Gontu. I mean, it would have been great to see Gontu as well. But like I said, Gontu not being the villain, and then Jambaya, or I can't even get his name right, but anyway, the two characters getting switched around where Gontu is not in the movie, and then Jumba, who is in the movie, and he's now the villain. I don't think it's the worst offense. I'll talk about the worst offense. I think I'll make that the last thing I talk about. So, let's kind of talk about some things that pretty much stay the same. Stitch's escape. So at the beginning of the movie, when when he's locked up in the Galactic Federation and they got the lasers pointed at him, and he tricks the lasers by drooling, and the lasers follow it, and he spits on that one guard, and the lasers shoot at him at the one alien guard, and he's able to take the big red ship that he ends up taking like he does in the original. That pretty much stays the same for the most part. So yeah. And by the way, Stitch, absolutely, he looks fantastic. Most of that budget went on him. He's the best looking one. The Grand Council woman, she honestly doesn't look too bad here in the live action remake. She honestly doesn't look too bad. Peakley, I didn't mind his design. He looked okay too, but Jumba, ho 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 ho, ooh, Jumba, he looks rough. We will we will kind of get into it. So Stitch's escape is pretty much the same. Lilo feeds that fish a sandwich, so that pretty much stays the same like she does in the original, because she believes feeding that sandwich or giving that sandwich to the fish on Thursday, believes that fish will change the weather. That's pretty much the same. So no differences there really. And then Nani gets fired from her first job. That pretty much mostly stays the same because Nani has to take Lilo and Stitch to where she works at, and both of them get up to shenanigans where they end up. One part they end up dressing up a ham, or they dressed up something with some clothes, a hat, a jacket, all this stuff. Kitty antics, right? And that ends up pretty much getting her fired. I mean, other stuff happens, but the point is, Nani ends up getting fired because of Lilo and Stitch's antics. So there you go, and they almost end up catching the stage on fire or whatever, like what pretty much happens in the original. So yeah, and then Nani also fails to get another job. So job interview after job interview, nobody wants to hire her because of Lilo and Stitch, mostly Stitch. So there you go. And let me see, the house gets destroyed. Maybe not the exact same way, but when Jumba is in his alien form, he just shoots up the place, and yeah, he absolutely destroys it. Him and Stitch, but it's mostly Jumba that destroys the house. So that's when, before he destroys the house, Jumba comes across a room, and that room happened to be Lilo and Nani's parents' bedroom, because both of them died, and now Nani is taking care of Lilo and that burden of all of a sudden, even though she was her sister, well, she still is her sister, but now she has to be her parent, essentially. He's looking around, and he sees that sign that says Mama and Papa, right? And then he reads it, and this was funny. It got a huge laughter in the theater that I was in. He's like, "Who's May and Papa or Pappy or something like that, right?" But obviously it's Mama and Papa, right? He says it weird as hell, right? Which it did get a great reaction in the theater that I was in. And then, like I said, the Grand Council woman, her CGI design looks pretty decent. I thought it was gonna look terrible, but no, it doesn't look that bad. It looks pretty decent. She's probably the second best looking alien in the movie. So, yeah. Stitch crashes a wedding. So, no, this is something that is a change, because I don't remember him crashing a wedding. So, when Stitch crashes on Earth, he gets out of the ship, and this he's got this collar around his neck, and Jambalaya, he finds this little remote, and he's pressing this button, and he's like, "What is this button doing?" And what do you know, he's electrocuting Stitch. And I mean, it's really electrocuting him, and it was kind of funny because he can't figure out why he's being electrocuted, and Jumba, Jumba's hitting that button, and he can't figure out what's happening when I hit this button. He doesn't know, because Jumba and Peakley are far away on his trail, but he's already on Earth, Stitch, and he's getting electrocuted. So Stitch decides to cause a huge power outage to get the collar off. He gets the collar off, the power comes back on, and this guy, this Hawaiian guy, he's coming to see what the issue is with the power. He sees Stitch. He's like, "What the hell?" That got a great reaction. Like, that was the only curse word in the movie, which I think that was an appropriate time to drop that, because you see this alien thing going around, you're gonna say, "What the hell," right? So Stitch, he sees a golf cart, and he drives the golf cart into the reception. Well, they've already had the reception because all of the wedding guests are dancing and all of that, and they're outside. They have like this big tent that, and he just drives straight into it, and people are just screaming and hollering, and he crashes into the cake, and yeah, and he ends up landing, Stitch ends up landing in the punch bowl. He ends up farting in that, and especially there was a couple of kids there that, that was a great laugh for them. Sure, right? So yeah, Stitch crashes a wedding, which I thought that was a pretty good addition. I liked it. So Lilo and Stitch take a ride. So if you've seen any of the marketing, Stitch driving around that pink Jeep or that pink little motored vehicle, right? So that's one of the girls that's been bullying Lilo, and Stitch notices that this girl is bullying Lilo, so he ends up sticking up for her and kind of pushes her out the way and ends up hot wiring the vehicle. And there you go, Lilo and Stitch take off with the Jeep, and that was pretty good. Even though in the original it was that pink bike, so they end up taking the vehicle instead of the bike, which that's fine, I don't mind that change at all. And then with some of these I might be going out of order, but this is a spoiler review nonetheless. This is when Nani, Lilo, and Stitch are driving. I believe they might be going to Nani's first job right before she gets fired. So they're all listening to a Elvis CD, and Stitch is just like, fooling around with the all the buttons on the console. So he ends up taking out the CD, the Elvis CD, and he ends up throwing that out the window. I'm sure that's been in the trailer, so nothing new there. So yeah, no more Elvis singing in this movie. And yeah, no, Jumba and Peekly get called back. Okay, I kind of already went over that. So, okay, so surfing. So yeah, this is where Nani becomes a surf instructor pretty much, and that's when Nani is surfing. Then Stitch, he's looking out at everybody that's surfing, and he sees this guy and a dog on this surfboard, right? So he gets the idea. He's poking the a surfboard at Lilo, like telling her, "I want to go surfing." So they end up going surfing, and it's a great little moment. It's great. Like I said, Lilo and Stitch's dynamic, their chemistry in this movie is one of the best parts of the movie. Absolutely. Stitch is without a doubt, the best part of this movie. That's not without a question. And it's great that the original voice of Stitch returned. Absolutely. So, yeah, okay. So we're kind of going to get into this next one. So when Jumba gets out of his human form to capture Stitch after he was called back by the Grand Council woman, he wants to capture Stitch on his own. He's the big bad villain of the movie. And this is where the house ends up getting destroyed. And Jumba, he pretty much says that, I get why you wanted to attach yourself to this little girl, because, it's the only way to protect yourself. You're just looking out for yourself. And Jumba pretty much says to Stitch that, if you want to prove me wrong, why don't you surrender now and come with me? So he puts down the portal gun that Stitch has, and he goes with Jumba, has the collar, and they end up getting out of there, Jumba and Stitch. But what Jumba doesn't know, Lilo, she ends up sneaking onto Jumba's ship. So that's what he doesn't know. The house ends up collapsing, and then that's when after the house has collapsed, that's when Nani and the social worker and Bubbles, who's supposed to be, he's still a CIA agent, but he's pretending to be a part of social services because, you know, there's a part where when they're surfing, Lilo ends up getting knocked off the surfboard, and, you know, that's when the social worker, who is this woman, so they still have a social worker element in the movie. It's just a woman instead of Bubbles, which I didn't mind that change. And that's when she pretty much tells Nani to maybe suggest signing over Lilo to the state, pretty much. And because the social worker earlier in the movie tells her that, I'm not impressed by the living conditions, that you need to straighten up your bills, because she noticed that she had a lot of unpaid bills on her table when she comes early on in the movie for the visit. And she says that you need to straighten up your bills and that you need to get health insurance. And Nani, of course, doesn't get health insurance. So, when Lilo ends up, when she's underwater there for not too long, she's fine, but she the social worker tells Nani to to go to the front desk and to tell them your insurance provider, all that stuff. But that's when the realization is like, oh, I don't have insurance, I never got insurance. And that burden of, they was only sisters, but now she's got the burden of having to be her mom, right? That's like kind of hitting her all at once. And so anyway, so Lilo is, you know, Lilo's on the ship with Jumba and Stitch. And then at first, before all of that happens, Nani is getting ready to tell Lilo about all of what's going on, but Stitch had ran away because he heard a conversation about how, between Nani and Lilo, about how Stitch is not the best thing for any of them right now. So he hears that, and he ends up getting a little hurt by that. So he ends up going back to the same pound that Lilo got him from earlier in the movie. And so Lilo ends up finding him, and you know, there's a whole, she ends up convincing Stitch to come back to the house. That's when Jumba ends up catching up with them, and Nani, is looking for Lilo. And that, by the time that Nani and David, and there's this older woman, Tutu TT, I can't remember her name, but she's this older woman. She was a pretty good addition to the movie. But they're out looking for Lilo, and they get back to the house and see that the house is collapsed. And by that point, Peakley has come back into the picture to kind of help out, because Jumba is pretty much the villain, and Peakley is pretty much like, trying to help out Nani, right. So yeah, Peakley doesn't turn villainous or anything like that. So he is pretty much the good alien in this aspect. So yeah, so Lilo ends up freeing Stitch because Jumba has Stitch in a containment part, has him locked up in part of his ship, but she's like pressing all these buttons. She don't know what to press, and she finally hits the right button, and she ends up freeing him. And by the way, Jumba CGI form, oh god, it looks so bad. It looks bad, but it's not the worst. It's not the worst travesty of the movie, not by a long shot. it's kind of close, but we're gonna get to the part that I don't like about this movie, and I don't understand exactly why they did it. But anyway, so okay, so once Stitch or Lilo once Lilo frees Stitch from the ship, they one of them ends up opening a part of the ship that ends up pretty much crash landing, or landing the ship into the sea, and both Stitch and Lilo end up underwater, and Lilo is trying to pick up Stitch to save him, but you got to remember Stitch is almost indestructible to anything except for water. So that pretty much stays the same. And he's so heavy underwater, and even Nani tries to get him, what she struggles at first, because Nani and David end up saving Lilo, and Lilo is like, no, we got to go back for him. He's under there, and Nani is like, she doesn't want to at first, but then she ends up going back for Stitch, and she's struggling, even though she's a little bit stronger than Lilo. Obviously, she's even struggling. That's how much heavier, that's how heavy he is underwater. But she ends up, instead of trying to swim up, she just ends up running along the sea floor with Stitch until they're able to get to the surface. And there is a moment, just a small moment, where Stitch almost dies. Now, I'm trying to think, was that in the original? I don't remember that being in the original. But yeah, there was a small moment where they're trying to resuscitate him, nothing's working, and then it seems like, he's gonna die. But you got to remember, this is a Disney movie, so he actually doesn't. But they end up getting the idea to use these jumper cables on Nani's car to end up trying to resuscitate him, and it doesn't appear that works. But then he just ends up getting up and says Lilo. So yep. So that was a kind of a close call, but you got to remember, this is a Disney movie, so of course they're not gonna kill him off, right? They got too much money riding on Stitch alone. So Stitch almost dies, but not really. So I can't remember, did that actually happen in one of the other Stitch movies? Because believe it or not, there's one Stitch movie. No, there's 3 Stitch movies, like Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, and Leroy and Stitch. And actually, there's one part on Jumba's ship where, Jumba pretty much says to Stitch that, I have to eliminate the love inside of you. So instead of you remaining to be 626, I'm going to make you experiment 627. And there's a little bit of an Easter egg of all of the other experiments. It's like a quick moment where you get to see the pink experiment, the yellow one, the red one. It's like kind of real quick. So I know for a fact the pink one is Angel, and I'm pretty sure the red one might be Leroy. So if they end up making a sequel or some kind of TV series out of this, we might be seeing more of these experiments in live action, which, if they design them right, it could be a good thing. So that was kind of a cool little Easter egg moment. Most of today's generations might not know what that was all about, but where I grew up with Lilo and Stitch, I knew about just about all of them. So that was kind of cool for the older fans of this movie, right? So yeah, with Stitch being resuscitated, that's when the grand Grand Council woman comes down with her ship and says that, it's time to for experiment 626 to go, and that's when Stitch interrupts and says, "Stitch, my name is Stitch." And Stitch pretty much says right before he gets ready to go on the ship, he's handcuffed. Here's one flaw with that in the remake, okay? He's handcuffed, right? But did they forget about his other two arms? I think they did, because in the original, his set of his not only are his two arms handcuffed in the original, but his extra set of arms are also handcuffed in the original, but only the two handcuffs are only the two set of hands are cuffed. But that might have been CGI limitations, I don't know. But, or maybe they just got lazy and forgot. But I just thought that was a little weird. Only two sets of his arms are handcuffed while the other two are still in him. You know what I mean? Thought that was kind of weird, but it is what it is. And then Stitch says, "Can Stitch say goodbye?" Like he does in the original. And I'll admit, it was better in the not the remake. No, no, no. It was better in the original, I should say. But in the remake, it was still done pretty well. It kind of got me, like when Stitch said, "Can Stitch say goodbye?" That kind of got to me, tugged on my heartstrings just a tiny little bit. Not too much, just a little bit, because that line has always been, that it's supposed to come off as sad, and it is well done. Even in the remake, I think it's done pretty well here. And he's like, the Grand Council woman is asking, "Who are you?" And he says, Stitch says, "This is my family." And they might be broken and little, but I pretty much found them on my own. So Grand Council woman is like surprised that he's at this point behaving. She is surprised that Stitch is behaving at this point, because earlier in the movie he was not behaving at all, but now that he's found this broken but little family, as he very well says in the movie, Grand Council woman says that she looks at Bubbles and says that you and your authority threaten to expose all of this. She says to him, "How can I trust you to keep a secret?" And he pretty much says that, "You have my word," and both of them give each other a handshake. And Grand Council woman says, Stitch is going to have a lifetime of seclusion right here on Earth. So, obviously, like the original, he gets to stay on Earth, because she is shocked at Stitch's good behavior at this point of the movie. Right? So now, I'm going to go back here. Now we're going to get back to the part that I don't like about this movie. Oh God, here we go. So, you know how Ohana means family, and that family, no matter family gets nobody gets left behind or forgotten, no matter what. Well, this live action remake, I think, completely, absolutely craps on that, because here's the kicker. This is the one part of the movie I don't like. It's been fairly positive up to now. Nani decides to leave Lilo to go to college. I'm sorry, what, Disney? If my memory serves me correct, in the original, Nani wasn't even. I don't even think college was brought up in the original whatsoever. Because, yeah, throughout the movie, college, something about there is a certain school that Nani had been wanting to go to, but she ends up throwing the college brochure away, and it's like mentioned, it's kind of hinted at, but I'm like, no way, they're not. She's not gonna go to college. I was like thinking in my head, I'm like, no, 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 nah, they do it. Nah, Nani is like, oh well, our house is destroyed. Well, see you later, Lilo. I'm just gonna leave you and let the neighbor, the old lady, take care of you while I go to college. Peace. No, she doesn't really say that, but it's like, damn, that's like a stab in the back. I don't know, man. It just I really just did not like that decision at all. No, not one bit. Nah, I don't get why Disney. I don't understand it because, like, I don't know, because that by saying Ohana means family, and that family doesn't get left behind or forgotten. But yet, Nani, you're leaving your only family member behind to go to college. Make that make sense. You can't make. I don't know, man. Like, unless they make some kind of sequel where she comes back into the picture, I don't know. Because the movie literally ends, like, you get the credits rolling, and they have footage of, while the credits are rolling, she actually ends up going to the airport, going to college. Great, Disney. You had one job. You had one job. You had to keep. All you had to do was keep the remake the same. But no, you want to. For some reason, y'all want to make that. Oh, Ohana means family, and family won't be left behind or forgotten. But oh, Nani is like the last second. Yeah, oh yeah, you know what? Screw Ohana. I'm gonna go to college. Bye. I hated that. So, like, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I'm not trying to get mad here, but damn, that was bad. That's a bad decision by Disney. It really does. And well, let's go ahead and get to one good thing out of this. So great, Nani leaves Lilo by her, not by herself, but pretty much leaves her to pursue college far away. That's great. By the way, I forgot to mention this. The actress playing Nani, she's hot. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm pointing that out there, dude. Anyway. Yeah, so Nani goes to college. Most of today's kids, like younger kids who may not have seen the original, they might not even know she doesn't go to college, that's kind of bad if you ask me. I don't know. There might be other reviews out here of this movie that's going to be a lot more negative, but I'm so harped on this decision that Nani is going to leave her baby sister all by her lonesome, not to be around her all the time, to go to college. I don't get the decision. I really don't. I'm trying not to cuss here, but it's just like, damn. The movie, other than that terrible decision, this is still a pretty good remake. Now, let's get to a positive. This is one thing I was worried that they were going to cut, and while it's not in the movie itself, it's during the credits. we do get to see Stitch dressed up as Elvis. That was freaking cool. That was cool. A shame they didn't put it in the actual movie, but it's in the credits. So if you go to see this movie, you got to stay for the credits at least, because there's additional footage. So, and there's a part where Lilo is talking to Nani on on the computer while Nani's on at her college, and Lilo's at where she's at with the old lady, and there's something that glows blue behind Lilo and Stitch, and what do you know? It is Nani ends up coming in through the portal to come see Lilo. Well, guess what, Nani? You didn't have to go to college, and you could be there all the time with Lilo, but great, great, great. But anyway, I still can't get over that decision. But anyway, so, of course, Lilo is excited to see her sister, and the old lady hears a noise upstairs, and you have Peakley, who's in his alien form. He's passed out on the couch, drooling out his mouth. And Bubbles, he says, I'll go check it out. So he goes to check it out. And when he opens the door to Lilo's room, it looks like it's Lilo who's asleep, laying down, but they're facing away from the door. It's actually Nani. Excuse me. It's actually Nani and Lilo and Stitch laying in the bed together. That was kind of a sweet moment, but guess what? Did you really have to create a portal in while you're at college when you could have stayed there instead of going to college? Oh, brother, I don't like that decision whatsoever. But other than that decision, it's still a pretty good remake. Now, I want to go over real quick my ranking of the live action Disney movies that I have seen. It's going to be a really short list, trust me. It's not going to be a very long list. I've only seen 4 of the Disney live action remakes. So, in 4th place, I would say Aladdin. Yeah, Aladdin is going to get the number 4 spot. Number 3, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Lilo and Stitch. I almost wanted to put it at number 2, but I was like, no. That ending decision of Nani going to college kind of affects that. It kind of knocks a couple of points off for me. So Lilo and Stitch live action remake, I will say, is number 3. Number 2, I'm going to go with The Lion King. Say whatever you want to say about Lion King, about it feeling lifeless, all that stuff, great. But for the most part, The Lion King mostly stays true to the animated movie as far as how it begins and how it ends. The ending does not change whatsoever. Now, number 1, so yeah, Lion King is number 2. The number 1 movie that I think, as far as the Disney live action remakes, which I think is better than the original, you guys probably haven't seen this one, or you've probably forgotten about this one, but in my opinion, the number 1 best live action Disney movie that is better than the original is The Jungle Book. I said it. I absolutely think that the 2016 Disney live action Jungle Book movie is superior to the original Jungle Book. And you can't refute me any different. You can't. It's my opinion anyway, but Jungle Book still has yet to be topped as far as the live action remake being better than the original. Lion King could have had the potential to do that, but both of them are about the same. Honestly, Lilo and Stitch had the potential to do that, but they could have done things differently in a couple of aspects, and then maybe it could have been the best one, but no, it's number 3, and then Aladdin, I would say, is number 4. So, yeah, number 1 is the Jungle Book live action. Number 2, the Lion King live action. Number 3, Lilo and Stitch live action. And then number 4, Aladdin live action. What makes Aladdin number 4 is... Okay, I will say this about Jumba being the villain. I like Jumba being the villain in the live action better than I do Jafar being the villain of Aladdin's live action remake. In the original Jafar, in the original Aladdin, he is intimidating. He's like, ooh, you don't want to mess with him, right? He's actually kind of scary, a little bit for Disney standards. But in the live action remake, however, he's a whiny little brat. That's how he came off when I saw it. So yeah, I don't think I forgot anything. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, that old woman, Tutu or TT, whatever her name is, that the one that ends up taking in Lilo and Stitch. She was actually kind of funny. I liked her inclusion in the movie, and there's one scene where she's driving behind David, and she's like, "Can you drive any faster, David? You drive like an old grandma," and that kind of got a chuckle out of a lot of out of some people in the theater for sure. But and I liked the change that Cobra Bubbles was a CIA agent. I actually maybe kind of prefer that. You know, I thought it was pretty good. I would give this movie, like I said, it's number 3. I would give it I'll say a 6 out of 10, if I'm going to be honest. I would give Aladdin like 5 out of a 10, Lilo and Stitch a 6 out of a 10, The Lion King like an 8 out of 10, and I would give The Jungle Book a 10 out of 10. So there you go. There's my ratings for all of the live action Disney movies that I have seen. So there you go. The ending kind of knocks off a couple of points. If the ending had been the same as the original, it might be a 8 or a 9 out of 10. But yeah, Nani going to college, leaving Lilo behind, knocks it off a couple pegs down, unfortunately. And I hated that, but Disney, they made that decision. So, but nonetheless, what I think of this movie is going to do really well. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up making $1 billion, because kids are absolutely going to go see this for sure. Well, parents are going to go take their kids, absolutely. So, that's pretty much all I got to say. So, yeah, I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and for your continued support. And if you want to let me know what you thought of this remake, feel free to let me know down below. And, yeah, like I said, I want to thank each and every one of you for stopping by and for your continued support. And if you're new, welcome on in for the very first time. I thank you for your support, and I'm glad to have your I'm glad to have your support, and I thank you for your time. I am Buck Beak, and I'm going to go fly away back to my nest. Until next time, bye guys.